Hi everyone, this week I have with me Leslie and Jonathan Williams, which I have just found out because they have been walking no, they have not been walking, they've been biking from Porto with a bicycle. And I just realized before we started the interview that these two people are the ones that run Cicerone. Which means that's very exciting to me because I've been selling Cicerone books downstairs in the store for quite a bit. How are you? How was your Camino?
It was great. It was a real mixture and a new experience for us. Normally we have walked Caminos. This time we were cycling, and it was a very different experience.
Yeah.
Good bits and bad bits.
Yeah.
It was wet, it was dry.
Yes.
The wind was against us, the wind was behind us. It turns out that 50 to 60 kilometers a day on a bicycle is quite hard.
How many days did you do it?
11 days.
11 days.
But we didn't. That was. But we took a left turn at Padron and went to Noia, to Monte Oliveira, to Finisterre, to Murcia, and then back.
I've heard about that. People that some people that are actually walking the Portuguese, and they're like they don't want to get into Santiago with the noise and the crowds. Yeah. Just kind of escape that and just take a left and go.
And Santiago is a finish.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
And also that I'd not been out on that side before.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's quieter.
Oh, the coast is beautiful. Yeah.
The coast is, but the ridges in between, less beautiful on a bike when you're going up and down all the time.
Yep, yep. I'd like to hear more about this Camino, but first let's start with Cicerone. How did you get started with that? What happened there?
Shall I? So Cicerone was founded in I think
1969
by a fellow called Walt Unsworth, who was a climber, and his partner Brian Evans and their wives, and it started life as a family company, with mountaineering and trekking books, and it branched into pilgrimage books in the early 1990s.
Because looking at the Cicerone website, there's I think 15 books related to the
something like that.
That's various caminos.
That's and other pilgrimage routes.
Yes, I see. You have the Transigena, and you have the one to in Japan.
Yeah. So Leslie and I took on Cicerone when the founders were retiring, and that was 1999, and been developing it steadily ever since. At the moment, we're in the act of we're in a transitional stage as we're stepping outside, and our son Joe and daughter Madeline are taking things forward.
That's great.
We'll be allowed to lend a hand and keep an eye on things, and
I'm sure they're going to ask you for advice.
Maybe write a few books.
Oh yeah, well I have an excuse now to go travel, right? Well, I'm sure you have been traveling for many years, and
we've been certainly walking and trekking for a number of years now, probably
more than Cicerone.
More than yes,
we started 10 years before Cicerone. So.
Wow. So how many books have you written?
We were adding it up. We think probably about 4 at the moment, but we have also updated a number of other ones as well. And it's something that we enjoy doing, but it's quite an exacting thing to do.
And it's one thing to write it, and then you have to update as well.
Yes.
Right?
That's the updating.
Yeah.
especially on the Camino.
Yes, exactly. After the pandemic, I'm sure there's been a lot of changes.
There's been a lot of changes.
Yeah. Do you have
accommodation-wise? Yeah. The route is
more or less, the same. Yeah. That's great. Good. So have you seen any changes? Have you seen any changes in the various routes and how many books you sell since you started in 1999? I'm sure you've been seeing, because I started the Camino Forum in 2004, and since then until now there's been
steady
a massive growth.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. The generally amongst the Cicerone guidebooks, I think there have been several that are really standout ones that have a worldwide appeal, and also we made it our mission, shall we say, also to improve our Camino guidebooks and develop that area as well, because a Camino is quite often somebody's first experience of a trek, and opens up the idea that they can travel and move through the landscape and enjoy everything that they see at a pace that is calm and sensible.
Yeah.
And that's what Cicerone is all about, trying to help people enjoy the outdoors.
Yes. Many times I wonder if people read the guidebooks, I'm sure they do both, at home before they leave, or if, of course, they're using it while they're walking, but when you write it, do you think about that?
Oh, very much so, yes.
Yeah.
I want the first time we used a Cicerone book ourselves, which was long before we took on Cicerone. I think we read the guidebook 9 times.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No,
at home before leaving, twice, on the aeroplane, the night before, during the day, the night after.
I see people getting guidebooks. They buy it from me, from my store, and they are not leaving till October. You know, so they are combing through the guidebooks.
Yeah. No, people are
now
are planning ahead, and it's part of the process. Is the whole.
Does that
planning.
influence what you put in the book? Because some books only
Very
have like a
definitely.
map and then phone numbers for lodging. That's it.
No, that's,
Yeah.
No,
we want to try and to inspire.
Yeah.
And to tell people why they're doing it.
Mm.
You know, what's there, why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And,
Is that different from the Camino, for example, compared to the walk in Japan or in other books you write?
in principle, no.
Yeah.
The idea is the same, but the execution. So, an English speaker going to Japan for the first time probably needs a significantly, how do you deal with Japan?
Yes.
It's quite.
Yes.
I mean, Japan is now very open and friendly, and there would be few issues.
Yeah.
And the trains run on time, so.
But the customs and understanding.
But the same idea would hold true for one of our other books on say an alpine trek, where understanding why you're there and what it's all about is an important part of the experience that we want to make.
Yeah.
It's actually a fine balance, because you want to be able to, particularly for an alpine book, you want to be able to speak to the person who has perhaps only picked up that first book and is going to have their first alpine experience, but also in the same book it could be something that somebody who has a vast experience is referring to. So the balance is quite interesting sometimes.
I could see that. Yeah. So it's interesting to see. Do you think the guidebooks also has changed from 99 to now, or is it more or less the same?
Hugely.
I mean, just taking the Camino, and in particular the Française, the sheer volume of things to deal with, make it very difficult to get the nice compact thing that you can sit in a pocket with a font size that is legible.
Yeah.
And, and that's a challenge. But looking back over a longer period, just thinking to a guide that we might have published, say, in the Pyrenees many years ago, you would have said to somebody, cross the bridge and make your way up the hillside and over the ridge, drop down for 1,000 meters and then up the next ridge.
Yeah.
Whereas now the descriptions tend to need to be much more detailed. So.
Do you feel like you also, because I see the way for at least the Camino has changed since 2004 is, in 2004 there were more, how can I say, more professional walkers, walkers, long distance walkers that had walked before. They knew more about the equipment, they were more prepared. Now it's more tourists that walk, people that don't have that much walking experience. They just found out about the Camino 3 weeks ago and they want to do it. So they are coming to it from a different point of view. They need maybe more help.
Yes.
And I can imagine when you write a guidebook, it's the balance there.
Yes.
Isn't that great that people go for a walking holiday?
Yeah.
I mean,
yes, but it's quite possibly the ones who then get leg injuries and things because they may not have trained or understood that walking for 5 or 6 hours each day will take a toll on the body unless you are
and then what to bring with you. For example, I have a luggage storage service downstairs, and a lot of the boxes and things I get from pilgrims are people send me from Pamplona, from the post office.
I don't need this.
Because it's day number 3. They have walked for 3 days with too much, and they realize that if I don't send anything, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So the people at the Pamplona post office, they have my name taped to the desk with my address. So,
Our daughter, when she walked the Camino a year ago in January, she said in about the first 2 or 3 days she got to know 4 or 5 people, I think it was. And one person dropped out after 3 days because his rucksack was enormous, and he just lost the will to continue.
I guess you learn.
That's
you
it.
learn.
Cicerone's heritage is tended to be amongst people for whom going for a walk is the main act. And therefore, I think our guides, including our Camino guides, continue to reflect that. I don't think you can't be everything to everybody.
No, that's true.
And nor should we try.
Yeah. So this time you decided to bike from Porto up to Santiago via, not getting to Santiago first, but going out to the coast, as you mentioned before. I'm curious, for those interested in walking or using a bicycle, what would you say are the plus and minuses on those two things?
We've debated it long and hard.
Yes.
Clearly, on a bicycle, you cover the, perhaps the less interesting ground.
Faster.
Imagine the 2 to 4 days north of Porto on the coastal route, for example.
Yeah.
There's a lot of resorts and that sort of thing. But it was interesting. We spent much less time cycling together, so we were separated much more than we would be on a walk.
Yeah. So you met up at the end of the day?
No, we were cycling together, but when you're walking, you're next to each other, and you're maybe talking or not talking, whatever you choose. Whereas on a bike, quite often the trail was very narrow, and so we were one behind the other. Yeah. And so it's more physical experience in a way, rather than less calm. Because you can't communicate. You don't talk all day.
It's about the bike and the bike journey. It's less about you. And you on the route, and it's not like walking into Leon when you've had not flatland, but you've had Meseta for 6 days, and if you haven't had time to look into yourself, then you're probably never going to.
Exactly.
I mean, the other thing is you're separated from other pilgrims as well on a bicycle.
You meet people, but then you only meet them once because you are doing 2 stages to their 1 stage. Quite often. And from the point of view of the trail, we had researched quite a bit how a mountain bike would be able to handle either directly following the walking trail or as close as possible, but occasionally we still found that we had really, really difficult short stretches of terrain to cover. And we're not mountain bikers, we're just cyclists.
I would assume the Portuguese is relatively flat, but still you found places.
Is relatively flat. As soon as we got into Spain, we started finding, again, sort of incredibly steep, ancient boulders almost of a path up, and pushing bikes because there was no way to cycle was quite hard with all the luggage.
Portugal has cobbles.
Yes.
which is less good for cycling.
Oh, it rattled us to bits, didn't it? One day in particular, I think it was the second day out from Porto.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I was glad to be doing it at this time of the year.
Yeah.
Because there was no chance really of any conflict with walking pilgrims.
I was going to ask about that because there's always on the Camino Forum, the website I run, it comes up. Oh, these bikers! Because they.
I think cyclists have to be very, very aware and polite because you are more manoeuvrable, and the way is principally for people to walk. But yes, we came across very few people, in fact, didn't we?
Yeah. Good. How did you do with the bikes? Because that was another question that always comes up: is did you rent bikes? Did you bring your own bikes? How did you do that?
We rented them. We had them delivered to Porto, and they are being collected as we speak, I hope.
Was that a good experience? I wonder about that.
It was good, actually. I researched a little online and came up with 2 or 3 companies that looked as if they would look after you well, and we eventually used a company called Bike Iberia, and they supplied one e-mountain bike and one ordinary mountain bike because Jonathan refuses to
well, you don't want them. You don't want them.
It's a matter of pride, really.
I understand.
But actually the e-bike was a potential problem occasionally with these very steep, very bumpy short sections because it's just so heavy to push.
Oh yes, and you can't.
And I was carrying more of the heavy things as well because I had the help of the motor some of the time. But
and when you push it, you can't use the motor, right?
No.
Yeah, that's a problem.
It was brutal on 1 or 2 occasions.
If you're into recommending things, we think Map Iberia did a good job.
Bike Iberia.
Bike Iberia. Map Iberia also does a good job.
Well, they do too, but that's another matter.
We were very pleased. They were very helpful. We had trouble with the charger for the e-bike, and they made arrangements by the time we got to Vigo to go to a particular shop, and they sorted it out and exchanged the charger. It was just it was a new bike with a new charger, and then the charger failed literally the second time it was being used.
So you had one day then with almost no
fortunately, because we were doing the sort of pretty much flat Portugal sections, I managed for 3 or 4 days without needing to charge or being able to charge. By the time we got to Spain, it was hillier, and I was able to recharge it.
Okay,
that said, we were intending to walk before we started, before the bikes came on the scene. Leslie has a poorly foot at the moment. So, so it was the way, really.
That's fine. I mean, it's a different experience. Have you tried biking a long walk?
We've both cycled through the Alps on the Route de Grande Alpes from Lake Geneva to Nice, but also last year I had a solo trip around Scotland and covered 1,600 kilometres.
Wow.
In March and early April.
In good shape.
Still winter up there.
It was pretty cold. I had every kind of weather. I started in beautiful sunshine in Glasgow, and on the trip I encountered everything: hail, rain, snow.
Wow.
Tremendous wind on Orkney.
Wow.
It was good fun.
Definitely a challenge. How did you find the Portuguese this time? You said it was relatively quiet. Did you have trouble finding places to stay, or was that an issue?
No, not at all.
Because some pilgrims find places have closed down. They have maybe opened up yet for the season, so it's sometimes
certainly there are a number of places that are closed down. You're going past in yeah,
Yes,
there should be a cafe here. Oh no.
Yeah.
I would have thought about half open from what we saw.
Usually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And many, I'm sure, are just closed because the season hasn't really started. Usually it's Easter.
Yes, doing the coastal route in particular, I think the coastal villages are not geared up very much for tourism at this time of year.
Easter. They're waiting for Easter.
Yes, which is next week.
Next week.
My son is off school next week, so that's why I know. Well, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to mention, that you wanted to talk about before we finish up. It's amazing that I have the people that run Cicerone here, because I had, as I mentioned, I had no idea that you were the ones. I knew we were coming in, but I didn't know who you were. So, because Sandy Brown, put us.
So Sandy Brown is the author of our Camino Frances guide.
Yes.
Yes. He put us in touch with you.
Exactly.
He's become a good friend.
Yes.
Over the years.
Yes. So I would say to people interested in getting some guidebooks, maybe go to cicerone.co.uk. You could also buy them on my store. And if you have no other things you wanted to mention before we finish,
I think that's all right.
Are we good?
Yeah. Do you think that's okay?
That's perfect. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.